When we think about it's the spread and the price of Brent crude. I mean, at one point, we saw it surging last Monday. Remember last Monday?
Yeah.
At this point now, the talk is that maybe there's some talks underway and things will come down. But if oil goes higher, Brent crude in particular, then we can expect that knee-jerk reaction again for stocks, likely?
Well, I wouldn't say maybe not to.
A bit, I saw that the S&P and the NASDAQ were each down right near correction territory, like 9.8%, 9.75% off of the highs. So we were right near that correction line. So we had been seeing a lot of selling. Let's get to some of the other things on your mind. So as far as the bottom line, you're saying that this headline risk could move things, but maybe not as dramatically as what we've seen. What about the bottom line? Where do we stand in the economy for the few months, the jobs, the inflation picture?
Yeah, I think the labor market is certainly.
Members in the Fed Day showed that they were concerned about job creation. So that's your point. It's not necessarily the firing, but no hiring or less hiring.
And I think to that point, that's what keeps this crisis.
I look at what's going on with gold, for example. Gold's at 4,300, a far cry from its highs that we saw recently. Silver, gold, they were safe havens. People were running to metals. Is that the story, that it's more of a safe haven? What happened to metals, and what do you think happens next?
I don't know if they've necessarily been
40 on the 10-year today.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen that in a long time.
Yeah,
what are your thoughts about? A lot of the guests came on. They said, "Look, we can handle up to maybe 4.5. Then what happens?" You know what I mean? What do you think?
For the equity market, we've always been
thinking about the energy shock. That's inflationary, whether it's to heat your home or get to work or things like that. Some of the conversations that you and Lizanne Saunders are having for this week, I don't want to leave out the most important things that you're discussing in your office.
The most important thing is really the trajectory of oil.
And it's very on point that you're talking about that. Kevin Gordon brought that up and said and noted the really curbing some of the withdrawals. That has been a constant story for the private credit market. What's the latest, Diane?
It feels like this is something that,
so much of this started just because of the downturn that we saw in software. And 12% of the portfolio is software, and they saw their first monthly loss, I saw, for the first time in 3 years. So, and it's not just Apollo, it's many of the private credit houses. Let's take a look also at KKR, which has gotten now a downgrade from Moody's.
Yes, this is another private credit.
Last but not least, we take a look at CoreWeave and the Bank of America call.
Yeah, so Bank of America is
5 years. And what's interesting is we see a lot of volatility, but are you using that volatility to make some moves?
Yeah, we are, Nicole. So during
these particular software names, which have been crushing the private credit market, but it was sort of baby out with the bathwater, or was that what happened there? You can't, for example, I was thinking how Mark Benioff was like, you cannot say, we haven't not seen a SaaS apocalypse before. It's just sort of, you need software. To some of the tech stocks, for example, you mentioned Microsoft. Where do you think Microsoft really could be headed, and why?
Well, I think
about what's going on with oil. Do you think this could wrap up? The president has been very eager to say, I want to try and wrap this up and get this done by Friday. Apparently, Axios is reporting there may be some high-level talks as soon as Thursday, and that there was a 15-point plan, and Iran has agreed to many of the points, including not having nuclear weapons. What could that mean if we start to get good news that it may be over, Strait of Hormuz opens up? Do we hit new highs again?
Oh, yeah. And that's why we bought the calls.
Because he said, as soon as it's all open, oil's coming down. You'll be surprised, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
I think at some point he even said $2 a gallon. However...
Well, he says a lot of things.
I know, but, he tries to lead the story of the direction where he thinks it should be going or will go, and often that's the way it goes.
Yeah.
He sort of gives us the precursor, buy the stocks, and then people bought stock, and then the stock market took off. So we will see what happens there. That being said, when you think about the big picture, have you been mostly in a lot of tech overall? Has that been an area that you've loved for a long time?
We have, but we were
Think about the consumer. Is the consumer going to be spending? It's amazing how some of the airlines were saying in the K-shaped economy, the upper end of the K, they're scooping up all the premium seats. There are people spending.
Yeah. One Big Beautiful Bill Act increased
stagflation and or job creativity, things like that.
Not worried about
creating
stagflation.
jobs.
No, you know what's interesting?
Yeah.
Highest number of new. You can start a network.
You say so, Nancy Tangler. We're back. I like it. I like it a lot. Thank you. It's
Thanks.
always so here on set. Glad you're here. Some of your thoughts on what the Fed has been telling us, and how do you read between the lines?
If it stays high.
Yeah, look, I mean, the president is talking today and saying that Iran talks are underway, and actually made a lot of notes about how the Strait of Hormuz will have control of anything we want, but that the Iran talks are going well, that Iran wants to end the war. They've agreed to even not having a nuclear weapon. This could mean, like the president said, oil prices would come down. We're at this, John. And what would the Fed do if oil prices came down, but we had low job creation? Ian, what do you think about when we look at the 10-year bond yield at it was 440 a moment ago? Your thoughts about those levels and how they affect our economy?
Yeah, I mean,
This year for the cuts, but next year, I mean, the dot plot we noted, right, was one cut this year, one cut next year. What do you think is the right path?
Months of time in the Brent and crude markets and get things under control because the Fed's worried about de-anchoring.
Yeah, John Blank and Ian Wyatt. Thank you both very